this one?
Do you need to add it to that?
This one right here? I'm ready whenever you are.
I'd now like to call the April 3rd Penn Trafford School District Board meeting order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's me. Roll call.
No roll call.
Then roll call, you're right. Special reports.
Up we go here.
Mr. Leonard?
Yes, I have a dry throat, so you have to
Oh, wait a minute, excuse me, Mr. Leonard, no, I'm doing this wrong. Okay, I will come back to you. First, I want to go to, Dr. Harris for the, student of the month.
For the students of the month and the students. Well, first I want to call in Jen Haberberger, and hopefully she's outside listening to me.
She was
There she is. Because first we want to recognize the students who were all at the drama the last multiple months of their lives and the last 2-3 day weekends. Come on in.
Oh, you slide.
Thank you for inviting us here.
Jen, are you able to take the microphone? Because Mr. Vinton's going to text me in about 2 minutes and say, can you please have Jen take the microphone? 'Cause he is actually recording us live, although you don't see the kids from the video department. We are being recorded live for our broadcast tonight.
Okay, this is the cast and crew of The Little Mermaid. We just had 2 weekends of performances. Sunday, our final show, we sold out the auditorium. That's the first time since 2018 with 941 seats purchased. So that was a pretty big deal. We had some pretty high numbers. I mean, it's The Little Mermaid, so yeah, we had a lot of great feedback from people. Did you go to The Little Mermaid? The best part for me was to see the little kids in the audience dressed as mermaids and Flounder and Ursula. And when they saw these kids after the show, like they thought they were real live superstars, and they hugged someone with King Triton over there, got real flirty and nervous around him, the little 3-year-old girl. It was a great experience to see the community come together and support. A lot of people came back the second weekend just because they enjoyed it so much, and they wanted to see that we had 5 people that were cast as leads both weekends. So some people wanted to come and see, and they were impressed with every performance that they saw. We have ranging from all grade levels here. Scuttle and Scuttle. This one learned how to tap dance in January, and if you saw the show this past weekend, he could give Gene Kelly a run for his money. We have Ursula, we have Grimsby, we have King Triton. You should have brought they look a little different than they normally would. We have a lot of animals, the blowfish, a clam. This is Ariel right here from this past weekend. She's a sophomore. So we have a lot of great talent. Flounder is also a sophomore. So I'm very excited for the next couple years. We've got a lot of sophomores and some freshmen here. Crew members that do makeup and move the sets. And we have Sota. Sota is an exchange student from Japan this year, and he knocked our socks off at auditions, and he was Prince Eric this past weekend, and it was incredible. And his family couldn't be with us, but his aunt and cousins from California flew in to see the show, so it was really great. Over here, Carrie Gutwald is the person that makes me behave and gets everything done. Janine Reibel is our new executive director joining us this year. Ashley is in charge of tickets, so if you had any ticket concerns, you called her. And Anita back there took over hair and makeup. We have a big parent organization, and everybody works really hard to put on a great performance. We start January 3rd, and Like the costume parents, I lock them in the costume room till they can get all the costumes done. There were probably 900 costume pieces for this show. And it was just great. Do you guys want to say anything? Anybody? You tired?
Are there any seniors going into something next year with school that involves acting, or does someone?
I know Phelan is, but she's not here.
Phelan Newman is accepted to Shenandoah University on scholarship for acting.
Great.
And Richard Lehman, one of our stage managers, is going to, he hasn't really decided yet, but I think Ithaca for stage management.
Perfect.
So there are careers out there in the arts that these kids are taking advantage of.
Mrs. Haverberger, how many students were actually involved?
66 kids with cast and crew.
66?
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Yep.
My daughter teaches junior high music in Ohio. She was blown away by the talent of all the boys. She says their involvement, how great they were, just is unseen where she goes, where she teaches.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We have a great program, and we continue to grow and have a great program. And people kept telling all of us the caliber of the show was like a Broadway production. And people were texting me on Sunday, "Can we get tickets?" I'm like, "Hey, we're the closest to Broadway you're going to get around here, so you gotta act earlier than Sunday morning of the show." So.
I'd like to make a comment also. As some may not know, I've lived here for more years than I'd hoped to mention. I went to the all through school here, and I was on the Drama Guild and the stage crew whenever I was in secondary, high school, and junior high. You guys just outshine anything we ever did. And just tremendous. I mean, I think we did a good job under the circumstances. We actually had our high school in Penn Middle. I graduated in 1970, so it was the old Penn joint, but you guys are doing a great job.
Well,
It gets better every year. I have to say, it
we
gets better
we
every
like to
year.
think
I'm
so.
a little jealous.
We like to think so. And we have Josh Bujakowski working with us on sound, and he does a tremendous job. So we keep growing with our staff, and these kids do a great job, and we hope to get more kids involved. We had swimmers, we had wrestlers, we had the video crew. If you watch PTTV, you saw the Penn Trafford Drama Guild, because most of these kids are on PTTV and did a lot of stories on it. But it's a great opportunity, and the life lessons that they've learned from doing this is going to help them for the rest of their life.
Well, thank you so much for coming. I know I saw it twice, plus a couple of times during the kids show, and I loved every moment.
Thank you.
And I know a lot of our board members had tickets. I know I was right next to Dr. Koshko last week, and Mrs. Ising. We both were there Saturday night.
Well, Mrs. Ising and Mr. Matarazzo, they probably know the songs from osmosis, from hearing it in the hallways every night.
They spent a lot of time,
Yes,
different
yes.
events and watching.
Well,
the
thank you
kids.
for having us, and we got to finish tearing down the sets.
Could you have all your students come around in front so we can shake their hands?
Absolutely.
I just want to say thank you to anyone who came to the show. We appreciate your support.
Oh, my gosh.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Definitely made it for us.
Come on, Mr. Napoli.
Good job, first one.
Amazing.
Well done.
You were area, right? Yeah, well, we look forward to 2 more years of you.
Oh, you're one of the little flounder guys.
You guys were
The
good.
flounder. Oh, you did both nights.
Oh, you're right. Oh, you were great.
Very good.
You were? Great.
Nice job up there. Great tapping.
Ensemble? You're Ursula, right? Oh,
You were the old guy that tapped us. Yeah.
and he's a Pitt fan. He's an A with me.
And your part?
Yours,
A scuttle. Oh, he's a scuttle.
Good job.
Great job.
Oh, the tall guy.
Yeah,
You look pretty ripped. They made you
Little.
look pretty ripped, aren't they?
I've known him since he was little.
And you were. What's up with the guys?
Very well done.
Man, you were excellent. I came those nights and I thought, well, it's hard to beat the guy who was first.
Hey.
You remember meeting me at Milwaukee one day, and I said, "Oh, you can play?" He said, "Yeah."
Searching the job. Because you don't want to be part of something.
Amazing.
That's right. Good job.
I know you
Thank you,
are.
Jen. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jen.
How's your daughter?
Thank you. Oh, good to see you again. Yes.
Lot Love it, love it, love it.
Thanks for everything. So, yes,
Never, you don't disappoint. Thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. In addition to thanking our drama students, our favorite part of each month is when we do Students of the Month. And excellent round of applause as the students go. It was a great production. I'm so glad that you got a chance to come down. And now I'm going to turn it over for our Students of the Month. We have about 3,900 students in our district, and every year we choose about 27 for Students of the Month. So if you do the math, it's less than 1%. So it's very hard to get that honor. And tonight we have 4 students. We have 2 elementary schools with Mr. DiNapoli doing double duty over here to recognize. So so you should be very proud. Tonight we do it just as a short reading, and then we take your picture for the paper. But during September, we invite you back for our first home football game, and you're actually celebrated there as well. Which is always nice. It's a little bit more fun than tonight. But tonight's a big honor. So we're going to start with Dan DiNapoli, and either one of your schools choose one and go.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. First of all, we're going to start with Trafford Elementary. We're going to have Rowan Young come on up. You can stand right up here in the middle, hon. There you go. All right. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Rowan Young as Trafford Elementary Student of the Month. Rowan is a first grade student at Trafford Elementary in Mrs. Stoltz's classroom. She is the daughter of Tom and Jessica, who are here with us tonight. And she is also the younger sister to River, who is over here. River Young, she's in 4th grade at Trafford Elementary. Both fantastic kids. Mom and Dad, you guys should be very proud. The Trafford staff overwhelmingly chose Rowan as the Student of the Month. The reason being she possesses traits that identify her as an outstanding student who can be trusted and counted upon. Rowan goes above and beyond with her schoolwork and academic efforts in the classroom. She is well respectful and kind to her classmates. She treats everyone around her with respect and kindness. She is always honest and wants to do the right thing even when no one else is watching, and that is very important. She is a joy to have in class. Rowan, we cannot talk enough about you right now, but we are very proud that you are representing Trafford Elementary as Student of the Month. Good job. Good job. Okay. Good job, Rowan. All right, moving on down, or I should say up the street a little bit. We have Level Green Elementary. We have Lillian Cementa. Lillian, come on up. Okay. All right, Level Green Elementary is excited to introduce Lillian Cementa as the Student of the Month. Lillian is a 2nd grade student at Level Green Elementary. She is the daughter of Corey and Rachel, who are here with us, along with a swarm of other family members. Welcome, everyone. Mrs. Damaska, her 2nd grade teacher, is here as well, says that Lily is such a gift. Her spunky spirit and can-do attitude makes everyone feel good just being around her. Lily is a straight-A student. She has a deep love of learning and a true desire to do well and succeed. Her empathy for others is unique. Lily will go out of her way to help anyone and make sure others around her are happy. She's exactly the kind of student you hope to have in your class. Outside of school, she enjoys playing lacrosse and soccer and is a member of the Girl Scout Troop 70702 and is a proud big sister of Charlie and Zach, who are here as well. Lily told us she's very excited to move on to 3rd grade because she gets to switch some classes and gets to take some science and social studies. She's looking forward to the summer when she can attend the playground program at Level Green Elementary. Lily, we are very excited to have you as well, Student of the Month for Level Green Elementary. Good job.
Congratulations.
Nice job.
Congratulations. Mr. Janabe, is there anything, do you have something to read about the elementary schools or what's going on at either of your school besides any outside events?
Yeah, well, right now we have a lot of, we just finished up the spring food drive. Obviously with the musical, both schools were able to take, 2 weeks ago, take a ride up, and the students really enjoyed that. Right now, Trafford Elementary is putting a lot of time and effort into, we're trying to get a new playground down there. So we're doing a lot of fundraising right now, a lot of grant writing, and it's bringing the community together, so we're really excited.
Some field trips going on, right now,
Yep,
right?
we're almost finished with the field, well, we're halfway through with the field trips. So we had a few at the end of February and March, and we're gonna have some here in April and May finishing up.
Where'd you go?
Went to the third grade went to the Carnegie Science Center. Kindergarten went to the Children's Museum down in Pittsburgh's Children's Museum. We have second grade is gonna be going to Hannah's Town, which is in, right outside, it's in Westmoreland County in Greensburg there. So we're- yeah.
Hannahstown.
But it's really Hannah's Town. It's not Hannah's Town. So gotta check it out, look into that a little bit deeper. So we're excited about that. It's our first time going for that. And then first grade, we'll go to the Pittsburgh Zoo.
The zoo, right? Yeah, zoo's always, right?
Yep.
All right, thanks, Mr. Janabe. Next, we're gonna have the winner from Trafford Middle School, representative here today, or the principal, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Dr. Harris.
Thank you.
I'm excited to introduce you to Kira Parks. Come on up. She's an exceptional student and young lady at Trafford Middle School in 8th grade. So today she has mom and dad with her and sisters and brother who also go to Penn Trafford. But I wanted to read what your teachers say about you, what her teachers say about her. She's a joy to have in class. She demonstrates responsibility, independence, and kindness. When doing any assignment, Kira devotes her best effort to showcase her learning while also meeting all of the requirements and often surpassing them. Within the classroom environment, Kira is always willing to help others, include her peers and her teachers. Most importantly, Kira possesses a high quality of character through her honesty, fortitude, behavior, and maturity. One of the teachers said, I don't think I've ever come across anyone that smiles as much as Kira. She absolutely fits the mold of what we're looking for in the quest to be better at everything you do. She has positive energy, outstanding attitude, committed to learning, and dedicated to be the very best that she can be in every single thing that she does. One of the teachers said, we're not sure if she ever has a bad day. So at Trafford Middle School, we asked everybody there to focus on what they control in terms of their perspective, their energy, their attitude, their commitment, their effort, and their dedication, correct? And the teacher said that she constantly spends her days as a model for others towards this goal. Her kindness to others is a constant, and her hard work in all of her classes has been consistent throughout her middle school years. We at Trafford Middle School feel very blessed to interact with Kira every single day. So that's what our teachers say about her, and then I interviewed her a little bit, and not only is she that kind of person in school, but she's involved in the middle school volleyball. She's gonna try out for club volleyball this year and spend some time doing that. She's a babysitter. She's involved in the community outreach activities such as giving out groceries through her church locally, but also to the homeless in Pittsburgh. She's very actively involved in her church and in youth groups. She enjoys to wakeboard at the lake, and she sings in our chorus. And when she's not doing all of those things, she just likes to spend time with Millie and Gracie, her 2 dogs. Right? So, Kiara, honey, we're super proud of you, and thank you for being a great kid at our school.
Good job. Congratulations.
Good job.
Great job, congratulations.
Congratulations, big honor. Mr. Sullivan, can you tell us what's going on at the middle school?
Sure. So as the year's coming to a close, we're entering our 4th quarter here. So we too are planning for our grade level field trips, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We're getting ready for our spring chorus concert and our spring band concert. We're going to have one concert at school this year. Ms. Rumbaugh and Ms. Riston are planning a combined concert for the school, so that should be fun. And then one of the students' favorites, we're getting ready for the end of April here, our annual Spring Fling Dance, which is very popular. So.
Hey, tell us about your musical, just like that way.
Yeah, so we it was a really good one. So they did
High School Musical?
High School Music. Thank you. I went. Yeah, junior, and they had 3 nights and went really well. They did an awesome job. We also did a preview for our students in Trafford Elementary, and they really seemed to like it.
They did a very nice job with the
They
drama.
did. Yeah, they did. A lot of time, a lot of effort, and they too start right in the beginning of January.
And I know Penn Middle is doing Shrek this year. I think they usually do theirs in May. It seems like you're always a little bit earlier than they are.
Right. And we try to coordinate that around high
Testing.
schools and Penn, so that the community can get to all 3.
We appreciate it. A lot of theater in this community. All right. Pat, before you give your student, do you want to tell us what's going on at the high school?
Sure, no problem, Dr. Harris. Next week, 12 students will be going to Hershey for FBLA, so that's exciting for those students. If they win there, they go on to the Nationals after that. Congratulations to Mark Harris. He was the silver winner in the arts and writing category from National Scholastic. That was a national competition, so winning the silver he should be very proud of that. That's very tough to do, in winning the silver medal, very high. Also, the Penn Trafford Indoor Color Guard earned 4th place overall and 1st place in the equipment caption of the Three Rivers Winter Ensemble Championships at Norwin last Saturday. Also, the Penn Trafford Indoor Concert Percussion won the whole championship over at Norwin High School, and they are ranked number 1 going to the World's Championships. So they should be very proud of that. Also, on April 13th, from 5:30 to 7:30, it will be something called Dine Around the World. There'll be food trucks here and games. Everyone is welcome. It's up here at the high school. That is on April 13th. Sports, Patton Graziano, he won the WPIAL 100 free champion. He also medaled at 100 backstroke, came in 5th place, and a new school record. So very impressive. Congratulations to Owen Odd, who finished 8th, and Joe Enoch, who finished 4th at the Wrestling Individual Championships. Also, congratulations to our state qualifiers, Dylan Barrett, Hayden Coy, and Tessa Whipple. Finally, Olivia Pepple and Tyler Fries were first-team All-Conference Big 56 basketball players.
Thank you. And I have one other thing, the PT video, that you announced for that, because they actually won the Outstanding Achievement Award for the Student Television Network, the prestigious National Broadcast Excellence Award in the category of Best Daily News Broadcast for Wake Up Warriors. PTTV ranked in the top 14 in the country with this award. Very good.
A lot of stuff going on.
Mr. Kath, Dr. Kath, did you put the thing on Make-A-Wish on or was that from somebody
That
else?
was not me, no.
Okay. I came here, I thought it was very interesting because I know that high school with this past year, we definitely reached our goal. $86,973.94 with all of our different efforts, and I just came in, so I'm not sure who actually sat this here, but it was nice to read it, so whoever did, thank you. always a good reminder. And I know this year we already had a dodgeball tournament this past month, and I know that's not included in this, but if you would have, anyone participated in the dodgeball tournament? A couple of the students, parent? How many people were here for like 5 hours for a dodgeball tournament? It was a long time, and I know I just walked in for half of it, and I was hearing it. So I appreciate all the parents who came and dropped off their kids and stayed, because it was a long dodgeball tournament. It doesn't have the total here, but I would like to have known, because whoever organized, all the kids who organized it, it was an amazing day for the students and the charity. So a lot of fun for the kids. They love dodgeball and PT, so it's a good tournament.
People don't realize how much stuff we have going on at this school. Mrs. Ising and I, we're walkers every night. We work in the halls, and there's something going on all the time. And how many clubs do we have at Penn Trafford right now?
At the high school right now?
Yes.
15 to 20 clubs, not including all the sports as well. So there's quite a few, probably to 30.
I was told
Well
we
over
have 30 to 32
Yeah, well over
clubs
30.
for people to get into.
Mr. Vinton let us know dodgeball was 17,000. So he is listening and he is watching. He does communicate. Thank you, Mr. Vinton.
Some are a lot more active than others.
Makes sense.
There's always something going on out there, always.
And then who is your student of the month?
I'd like to introduce Chloe Walton. Come on up, Chloe. Chloe is accompanied by her mother Erin, stepfather Mike, and her grandparents. They all came tonight. Chloe is a 10th grade student. She has a 4.2 GPA. She is a member of the Citizens Action Program, a SAD member, Active Minds member, part of the varsity soccer team, and club soccer. Her future goals, she would like to go into the medical field, possibly anesthesiology or pharmacy. She hasn't made her mind up yet. She has a little time yet, but it's coming quickly. Spoke to some of her teachers. Mrs. Bucci said, Chloe is a pleasure to have in class. She is a hard worker and responsible student. She constantly puts forth her best effort to succeed academically. Chloe is willing to help others and serves the role model to her fellow classmates. Mr. Campero stated, Chloe is an exceptional student. She works hard, day in and day out, and always completes tasks with her best effort. Chloe is a respectful student to her teachers as well as peers. Chloe approaches all situations, no matter how difficult, with a smile on her face. Miss Martini, Chloe is sweet, smart young lady who strives for success. She works hard and has a strong passion for athletics and community service. She is a wonderfully well-rounded student. And finally, Mrs. Popovich, Chloe Walton is a wonderful representative of Penn Trafford High School. I have watched her grow over the years into a beautiful young lady with a servant's heart. Chloe is a member of the Community Action Program. She has been very involved with numerous projects, including the Jeanette Food Pantry, Stuff a Truck, Toys for Tots, the Big Buddy Program, and the Backpack Mentor Program. She is currently serving as the co-chairman in the Spring Food Drive. She also serves as a nurse intern in a nurse's office. Her compassion for others is shown through her actions with those who have special needs. It is heartwarming to see her interacting with these students during our backpack shopping trips. The conversations and laughter that happens with her and life skill students is just pure joy. I am so proud of her and all she is doing to make a difference here at Penn Trafford High School. Congratulations for being Penn Trafford High School Student of the Month.
Great job, congratulations.
Dr. Harris, you might want to remind people to stay. They might want to see that presentation before they hang it up.
I am going to take a picture of the winners, of the students of the month, if you can come over here. Tonight, after the pictures, parents are always welcome to go, because we never make anyone stay. I don't think no one has ever stayed. But if you do want to stay, there is going to be a presentation on the demographic study, which kind of gives us the growth and development growth of the student enrollment over the years. You're more than welcome to stay for it. But if the students can come up here, there's 4 of them, all girls. Go ahead. She probably asked you because she knows I'm not the best picture.
You want to go in the middle?
Yes. Yeah, I'm like sitting here like, what? Yeah, definitely. Yes, I sent it next Tuesday. I'm sorry. But I, I know, I've heard.
Nobody said they did. That's part of my job. He goes to the he records.
Testing, Steve.
I got this thing.
If possible, I'd like to resume the meeting. If possible. If possible. I'd like to resume the meeting.
All right, here we are.
Yeah.
30. Yes. Yeah, I
could try, y'all. I mean.
I didn't know you were from, she's from California, you're from Texas.
I am.
When I hear the y'all, I'm thinking California saying y'all.
Oh no, I'm born and raised purely Texan.
Okay.
Like
I feel better.
you don't get much more Texan than me. So
Thanks.
I get told all the time that I have an accent, and I'm like, no, I don't.
That's like Pittsburgh, people think we have
We
accents.
don't have an accent.
We don't have accents.
I don't either. I don't know what they're talking about. So like,
As you know, this year we've been talking about, we entered into a study. We were working with HHSDR for architecture and engineering to do a building comprehensive study. And as part of that, we're working with Davis Demographics. I almost wanted to say Davies. And here today, the study is done, and then they're going to share it. It's actually Georgia Leonard.
yes.
Correct, and there's no relation, so we have a school board member. I don't know, you're right.
Maybe, right?
I'm assuming.
Both kind of got red hair.
That is true.
Oh, see, this is there's assistance with this one. I'm actually from West Texas. I was born out there in Andrews.
You know what my first name is?
I'm sorry?
Do you know what my first name is?
No, sir.
Dallas.
I love that. You know,
We might be related.
we might. One of my best friends from high school, his name was Dallas. It was quite comical. So I called him. Yeah, I called him Dallas, Texas, and he called me Atlanta, Georgia. So, all right. Well, then, yes, as y'all all know, my name is Georgia. I work with Davis Demographics. I've been a project manager there for a while now. And we've had the privilege of working with your district and going through everything regarding your students. So I'm going to go ahead and just pop these in. All right, so, and I'm going to get a little closer just so I can see, which is why I've got the mic in my hand. So whomever is listening on the other end, I hope that y'all can hear me clearly.
Yeah, you want the lights then?
Oh.
I can do it.
There's a difference over there.
So when we work with school districts, we have to kick off with a few things, right? We gather tabular data, meaning your birth rates. We look at student yield factors and all sorts of things. We also look at your spatial data. And when I say spatial data, I mean your students and your attendance boundaries and stuff like that. We research and contact and do a plethora of things regarding your residential development. And then we analyze all of these things, we throw it into some forecasting software, and we come up with your forecasts. This is a lovely view of our methodology. I am not going to go through this piece by piece, but what I do want to point out is that the biggest thing that we start off with is your student population, right? Everything that we do, the base of it is your students, and current and historical, and without having good data with that, then everything else doesn't fall together. So we had some really good student data from your district this year. And then we look at birth rates and mobility and student yield factors, and that contributes, but I'll go into those in more detail as we go through this. So, as I said, student data is vital, and we go through, before we even get into the meat and potatoes of the project, we make sure that the data we get from the school is good. We go and double check it for any kind of duplicates, if there's any errors, bad addresses, et cetera, and then once we get it signed off, then we do a process called geocoding. And every one of these dots, and there's actually dots upon dots, are your students. And what this does is it allows us to do a spatial analytics. And so every one of these colors is a different year. So because we have geocoded all 4 years of student data, we have a current year and 3 years of historical. And once we have these kiddos on the map, then we can see them on a student density. And so this is your student density as of fall of 2022. And I'm gonna make sure I click the right button. You can see where there's a higher concentration of students here and a higher concentration of students here. Anywhere there's blue, just because there may not be a shaded, there doesn't mean there's a student there, there's just not a high density. Visualize it kind of like a weather map, right? All right, and then once we have your students, we get your attendance boundaries, and then we do something called, we create something called study areas or planning units. what these do is we take your attendance boundaries and we cut apart your neighborhoods, and spatially cut them apart, that is. And this allows us to analyze what's going on within each little community, and see if there's students moving into, moving out of, if development is happening in that particular area. And then different rates can be applied at those smaller units. Y'all's district was cut into 96 attendance or study areas. Okay, so once we get all of that, right, we've got all those pieces, then we can do something called attendance matrices. And I'm going to quickly go through this. I'm not going to do this entire table, but how you read this is basically the sum up of this is you've got your school of residence and your school of enrollment, right? So just because where they are living doesn't necessarily mean that is the school that they decide to attend, right? They have choice to go to transfer. So for example, Harrison Park Elementary School, in the attendance area, the attendance boundary, there are 428 students, elementary level, that live in that boundary. Of those 428, 395 of those students choose to go to their home campus. However, 6 choose to go to Level Green, 13 choose to go to McCullough, etc. All right. And then if you go down, then you can see the student population that makes up the enrollment at Harrison Park Elementary School. So, for example, 395 are coming from Harrison, 3 are coming from Level Green, and 14 are coming from McCullough attendance area, et cetera, et cetera. So for the total enrollment for Harrison Park is 437. You have in that particular area 2 out-of-district students that were, so they live outside of your district boundaries. And then you have 4 unmatched students. An unmatched student goes back to that geocoding process. So these are students that for some reason they didn't have a good, either they didn't have a good address that we were able to locate, or they may have been one of those protected students where we get a P.O. box or they're a district or something like that. So if it's just a few students, we don't worry about it. It gets lost in the decimals. It's not going to make any impact on the forecast. If it were a ton of students, we'd be like kicking it back and say, okay, we need to look at this and find out what the problem is. The really cool thing about stuff like this is it allows us to see different nuances. This is another way, another validation check that the data that we're working with is good data, right? Sometimes districts can see this and say, oh, wait, that's wrong. We need to look at the student data again. And then we go back to the drawing board. So with this, then we can also apply it to a utilization, a utilization matrix. So going back to that 428 resident students, but for Harrison Park, the campus capacity that we have is 549. So enrolled students in there was 437. So if we were to look at utilization on both of those, enrolled versus resident, if all of those resident students chose to go to Harrison Park, we'd be at 78% utilization. However, you're sitting at, with 437 enrolled students, you're sitting at 79.6% in utilization. You have 36 students that are choosing to transfer into that school, 33 students that are choosing to transfer out, 2 of those out-of-district students, for a total of 38 net transfers in. And then, so if we look at here, we're looking at enrolled students. McCullough is sitting at 100%. And then, so that's how you read this chart. Any questions? Okay. All right, and then I've got the same attendance matrices in here for the middle schools and high school, because there's just one campus, there's not really a matrix to create. But you will see more of that in the actual final report. Really quick, go back. Okay, so both of your middle schools are sitting approximately at 52%, 57% enrolled utilization, and resident students 56.49. Okay, so we do that. Next piece is we look at your birth rates. We look at the live births within each borough. We sum them up, and we apply that, because what happens is, you know, when they're born, we anticipate 5 years later, they're going to start kindergarten. Okay, so we take that and then we apply that to the kinder year 5 years later. What I was very fascinated with in y'all's birth rates is y'all have a very almost cyclical up and down and up and down with your birth rates. Y'all have really high highs and really low lows. So, and the fun thing is you can actually correlate this to your kindergarten student body, student cohorts. So like right here, students born in 2013 started in 2018, 367 births. Another bubble I saw was 2015, and born in 2015, kinder year 2020, 372. That was the biggest one, but then y'all get to really low lows like 290 from students born in 2020. But that's kind of par for the course. What we're seeing across the United States is births are really, really low. The COVID, everybody was wondering what was going to happen during the pandemic, and it really ended up being people didn't have as many kids, and we're actually below the replacement rate. All right, then, and if we'll even show you this in the later when I get to the actual forecast, you'll see these ebbs and flows in your numbers matriculate through your kindergarten cohort, but then as they matriculate through, you'll see those bubbles. It's very kind of fascinating. Okay, mobility factors. So we've looked at births, how that impacts kindergarten. Mobility impacts existing homes, okay? These are homes that are, been around in the communities for years and years and years. They have a natural turnover that happens, usually cyclical, right? Families become empty nesters, they move away, then new families move in, and that kind of turnover happens about every 13 to 16 years in a neighborhood. I'm looking at this, and as I mentioned earlier, I just want to caution you not to go from column to column as implication from each. Basically, how to read this chart is going from kindergarten to first grade is that first column. So if we were to think of kindergartners in 1 year, how many of those kindergartners were retained when they went into first grade? So as a hypothetical number, if you had 100 kindergartners that decide that next year we're going to become first grade, when they entered first grade, did all 100 enter first grade? Were there fewer or were there more? In this particular case at Harrison Park, y'all are at a 1.07. So you gained 7% in that attendance area for kindergarten. Okay, and then where there's blue, the ones, that just means it was you maintained that whatever you went into the school year with is what went into the next school year with. And when you have that red, that's where you saw those slight declines. And y'all really don't have, you have some, but there's nothing of significance. Like the 0.93 is right there going from 7th grade to 8th grade at Trafford Elementary School. And that could be explained by a number of variants. So this is actually very healthy mobility. This, and I'll touch back on this later, all of this green, that means people are moving into your community. This is inward mobility happening here.
So the green at Sunrise and Trafford, there's a lot of it, indicates that population is growing each year.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Predicted the opposite. At least I would.
All right, and then we have your student yield factors. Student yield factors get applied to new housing, okay? So if you build it, theoretically, they will come, right? So what we do is we look at all of the housing in the area, and we determine how many students live in that housing type, and then we do the math and we get a rate for this factor. And we anticipate that students, from existing neighborhoods of existing housing type will yield the same rate approximately for new development. So for example, K5, the factor is 0.149. So that means that for every 100 units, we would anticipate 14 or 15 students would be K5, okay? So this is these are kind of low, and I know we were kind of touching based on that a little while ago, right? These are a little bit on the lower end. So what this tells us is that the housing type that is being built, or the existing housing type that we have now, isn't necessarily yielding the number of students. So whenever you are getting development, it's not yielding the number of students that you expect. And typically what we've seen is a neighborhood that's stable. We're in that 0.4, 0.5 range. So when it comes to like K-12, you've got your single family detached is a 0.32. That's at like approximately 33 students for every 100 single family detached homes. So you're right under that, when it comes to rates, you're right under kind of that stable neighborhood. But you're making up for it in inward mobility. So, but that's how this is calculated. Any questions?
How accurate is this? If we sat here internally and we said, geez, I don't know. Like, so how accurate is this? How much can we use this to really plan forward? I mean, do you have any studies over the history of that shows what your firm is able to produce and how accurate it is?
When we do our forecasts, it's the same methodology that's been applied for the past 30 years. And most of our work is word of mouth, right? I would say that we are, most of the time, we are within 1 or 2%. I know I had one district that had like 33,000 students, and we were within 100 of their students in that particular study. So, and that was going into 2020. We were looking at their current forecast, and we were like looking at historical, and we were within 100 students. So,
over 5 years.
No, that was in the year of 2020. But I actually am very confident in what I'm presenting to you tonight. In regards to student yield factors, we do these numbers ourselves in-house. Like, we research this parcel data. We acquire it from the state. Pennsylvania has really good resources for that. And then we go through and we tag every one of those. We have analysts and technicians in-house, and they are the ones that are tagging these parcels. So it's our eyes and our analysts that are doing this information. And then we take your students, your current student body, and determine how many of those students are in your single family detached and how many are in your single family attached. And with that, we create this rate. So these rates, I have 100% confidence in.
Yeah, that's important, because obviously if we're looking at a building project or consolidating buildings, we need to know how many kids are going to be in those buildings. I mean,
Absolutely.
You can't be off by 500 kids in one building, or
Oh, no.
even 100.
That's, yeah.
It's a big deal.
No, you're
Use a classroom.
absolutely right. So, and so as it stands right now, right, with current trends and people moving into your neighborhoods the way they are and the kind of housing it is, then this is what we're expecting. Now, we do suggest reevaluating mobility and your single family detached, reevaluating your student yield factors about every 3 to 5 years, right? Economic factors can change things. I mean, the pandemic, right? Nobody saw that one coming. And so there's all these different economical factors that can change stuff. But we do, with what you have, these are what we would go with right now. And I would say that these are good for about 3 to 5 years. Yes, sir?
If you weren't done, finish.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
Whenever you're calibrating, how do you factor in homeschool, private school, cyber schools? How does that play into your demographics and calculations?
To put it bluntly, we don't. So,
Blunt.
I'm a blunt person. I try to be anyways. Basically what it is we look at the students that you have. Those are the ones that you have. Those are the ones you're going to continue to have. Okay, so that's one thing. If you don't have them, most of the time you're not going to have them unless that program ends at, like, say, 8th grade, right? And then you're going to acquire them back in 9th grade. If you do acquire them back in 9th grade, we're going to see that in mobility, right? That chart with the red and green. Then we would see that in that chart, and you're going to pick up those students there. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So otherwise, we focus on, for one, we don't geocode those students. We only geocode the kiddos that are in your existing SIS system. So we don't technically have information on those students to factor them. Now, you can look at census data and see what they anticipate should be in your area. But as far as actually like applying that into any kind of forecast, it's not applicable for us. And in our experience, it's not been something that's been necessary. We just look at it as you don't have those kids. You're probably not going to get those kids unless there's an outer lying influence. Maybe a charter school closes, right, that would, you're gonna suddenly, that's a, you know, a thing that's unexpected, you're gonna get those kiddos back. But as far as like normal ebbs and flows, we just don't count them.
We do have a number of students who are placed out of district. There are students, but they're just not in our buildings. So it's not significant, but those are some students, and typically they don't come back, but some do.
Those count in the numbers. of our
Those are the
enrollment.
numbers that we gave, yes.
And
And
that's
then we
in
al-
our 4,000.
Correct. We also have some students who are in our E-Academy, which are still our students that are still on our books, so.
Yeah. And when those students do come back, they're going to be picked up in mobility, right? That's going to be that one net student that appeared that wasn't there before, right? Because in, like, say, year one of that historical student, they weren't there. But in year two, suddenly their point is there. So that's one of those things that as those counts come in and out in that mathematical, you know, algorithm that we have, that gets picked up in those instances. So that mobility really tells you a lot.
Yeah, I was just trying to, in my own mind, look at these bubbles that we're looking at and just try to figure out. But you haven't figured out what caused them either.
Most of the bubbles that, from what I've seen, are your kindergarten class coming through. Your kindergarten classes, those birth rates that I was showing you earlier, those years of higher births, if you follow them down, and I'll show you one here in a minute. You had one, it was actually in 2018. We don't see it in 2018 on our chart, but we can see it when they enter first grade, where it's kind of a higher number, and that's in year 2019. And when we start to, you know, watch that group go all the way through, you see how they're a larger cohort than the ones around it, and how when you get a few of those clustered together, as they move through, it really can change the dynamics of what's happening. So, but it is my belief that a lot of your bubbles are related to your kindergarten class.
But the kindergarten class correlates to a new housing development, right?
Or
It-
inward mobility.
Or inward
Yeah,
mobility, correct.
this
Well,
this is my definition. This is a destination district. People want to be
yes,
there. It's a well-run, well-managed district, and we try hard to keep it that way, obviously.
yes.
But there are housing developments, I'm retired, but I used to deal with this stuff, that are being built. One in particular is being proposed in the community now. It's gonna have 50 or 60 units, but they've designated 55 and older, so those will show up with dirt flying, roads going in, and no children.
Right.
Whenever you're figuring those into your factors, are you aware of,
Mm-hmm.
whenever they have that demographic outline?
Whenever we do our residential development and research, and we will get into that here in a second, if we determine that they're a 55 and older community, we pay attention to them, right? They're on our map, or we try to like keep them on our map. Sometimes we'll filter them out for like maps purposes, but as far as our data goes, we keep an eye on them because sometimes it has happened where they planned at 55 and older, but they changed it. It's also just good for us to be aware of what's happening in the area. But if there's no students coming through there, then we don't apply it in our forecast because it would yield 0 students, right? And so, but there was something else that you said a second ago that I wanted to kind of go back to. In kindergarten, your kindergartners are being counted when it comes to new development. So that K through 5 is in that 0.149. So in a new development, say for example, a new single family detached development, those, you know, we are already anticipating and counting potential kindergartners coming from those. So you've got them in your kindergarten class, and then you can also have that impact from this number as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Like I say, maybe I didn't. I'm on several other boards, so it gives me the benefit of a broader base of information. Like one board I'm involved with is a sewage authority, and we review plans, and they lay out, because we have things we have to do for capacities and line capacity stuff, and that's where we get some more information on the fact that there's not going to be children generated in those
Yeah.
communities. So I assume that you guys are aware of all that too, then.
We do. We whenever we are doing residential development. Now, granted, we don't go into anything like sewage, right, and any kind of that level of detail.
Nobody.
But we pay attention to the housing type, right? The number of units, how quickly they're going to be built. And let me see, is that, yes. Oh, look, next. How quickly they're going to come online, right? Some developments, they build super fast, right? And we're expecting, you know, however number of many students are going to come from that development to be in 1 year. And then sometimes they may take, 2, 3, 5 years to build out, and then that's a slow matriculation into the student body, right? And so all of that is taken into consideration whenever we do our phasing and how we apply our student yields. Yeah?
Thank you.
Okay. So going into residential development, y'all have 12 projects right now that are currently being monitored, and all of them reside within 3 of your attendance areas. Most of them are in McCullough, which is not shocking because that was where we saw a good number of mobility. And then we have 21% of it is in Harrison Park, and then you've got 4% in Level Green. As far as units by housing type, 47% are single family detached, and then 42% are single family attached. Single family attached is like townhomes, condos, that kind of thing. Multifamily attached, we consider that to be more like a duplex, a triplex, more of that residential feel versus commercial feel. So it looks like 263 units are being forecasted. So that's not a whole lot of development, not enough development to offset any kind of natural decline that y'all would be having if it weren't for the mobility. These are the locations of your residential development. As you can see, most of them are up there in that northern corner. And the numbers on here I know are super hard to see. And whenever you do get a printout of this, there is a corresponding chart with these numbers, and I'm going to push that next. So this allows you to see the number of units that are being applied, the total units that are within that project, and then units being applied in the forecast, and then the housing type and their current status. So you've got 2 projects that we have on here that are already completely built out, and that's when you see the zeros applied in the forecast, etc. That Blackthorn is that one that's up in the north that has a ton of different phases. I was actually looking at that one on aerial imagery just the other day. So I was like, wow, this is moving and grooving. So, alrighty. Oh, that got cut off. That's interesting. Okay, so this is your resident student forecast. This is, if you had seen this in your printouts or emails, this is the top half of a specific chart. And this does go class, through each cohort, and as they go from historical for the first 3 years on the left, current year is orange, and then our forecasted student counts are on the right. Okay, so what I was talking about earlier was, so we're starting in 2019, so your kindergarten class for 2018 was kind of big, because look at that first grade class of 284, right? And then you've got that 2020 class that we were looking at where the birth rates in 2015 was 295. And you just see how they grow, and they kind of start a bubble in the cohorts around them. And that's when you see the way they just matriculate through, it just like a wave. And so that's why next year you have another one of 287 we anticipate, but then after that, because you do have some lower births within the boroughs, for the next few years, we do anticipate some lower kindergarten classes. Alrighty, and then, but let's go to the next slide. Actually, there's a few thingies that I'm going to point. Okay, so looking at development, kind of what I was mentioning, let's say if like 100 homes are going to come online this year, 100 homes are going to come online this year. It does kind of go through year to year to year, and that's the impacts from housing projects. And then when we look at mobility, that goes at this angle here, and you can see like 290 kindergartners this year will become 302 first graders next year based on that mobility rate that we were discussing, right? And so that number gets carried forward. And that's how that kind of brings it together. This is the bottom half of that same chart. And so I've got the totals relisted back up here from your resident students, but this starts bringing in your non-resident students and the unmatched or other students. And so it brings your total students down here at the bottom. So these numbers right here, all 4 of these should match the student data verification forms that your district had signed off and received. And so that we've worked with resident students, and then we've put everything back together. And then this annual change just kind of shows where during COVID, 2020, so let me go back so we can, let me go back up, go back. So first column is 2019, second column is 2020, then 2021, right? So if we go back, whenever COVID hit, y'all didn't really see any kind of consequence of that. Y'all still gained 36 students. The next year, y'all lost only 12. And then this past year, y'all gained 77. And the way we're forecasting is y'all are going to grow approximately about a classroom every year for the next several years, except for that year 2 of the study, this 3.5. And that's because y'all have some larger class sizes matriculating out that's offsetting that. Otherwise, 20 to 14, 35, 34. Again, I always say focus on the first half of the study. And then, because for all we know, there could be another bunch of development that starts kicking in and brings these numbers back up that's not being planned or not on the books yet. And so we can't really account for it. But that's what we're looking at for your district is, for the most part, y'all are stable. Y'all aren't losing anything. Y'all, that inward mobility that y'all have coming in is keeping y'all from declining. Your birth rates are fairly, well, they're kind of fun to watch going up and down. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next year. And whenever we get more information from Pennsylvania as they report it, then we're able to apply that and see what kind of trends come from that. And then if any more development comes online, those are all 3 factors that can, of course, change the trajectory of what this is. But right as it stands, y'all are just holding steady.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Hate to be the only one asking.
Oh, no, please ask.
You use the term non-resident students.
Yes.
Could you clarify that for me, what that means?
Absolutely. Non-resident students are students that do not live within your district boundary. So it might be a staff member that lives outside the district, if y'all have that policy.
We do not take anyone from outside of the district.
Then we might need.
You showed stats on it that show that we do have non-resident students.
Yes.
That's what's.
Yeah, we do not take anybody from outside the district.
And there was quite a few numbers plugged in that had the non-resident students. I looked at them. I mean, you moved a little fast for me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But they're on there.
Yes, they are on here. So either A, somebody's slipping through the cracks, right? Because it has been known to happen. Or we need to go and look at their address. Maybe there's something wonky that happened with a geocode. There weren't enough, in my opinion, as somebody that looks at numbers all the time, to skew these. It'd be lost in the decimals.
Everything I saw, there was not a lot. It was
Yeah.
a curiosity that I had.
Boy, now you got mine.
Yes.
My ears here. So how did you get those numbers? Where did they come from?
The 7.2.
The non-resident. If you just go across, you see 16 where it's yellow, 16, 15, 7 across from left to right.
So all of these are students that geocoded outside of your district. Okay, so
How did you get the geocode for them?
so there are 2 locators, or what we call it's called a locator. We get reference data. Bring that back. We get information like 911 points, and we get street data, and we get parcels from the state, and we create something called a geolocator. And with that, we take the Excel file and we process it, and it puts those points on a map, and it's called geocoding. And now granted, if the address is wonky, then maybe those few, and it could be that 5 is the same 9 and that 9 is the same 3, right? And it's just tricky. That 5 is probably that 5 is probably that 5.
My only thoughts are, we do have a section of Jeanette that has an old, we kind of talked about this earlier this year, like a historical, it's in Jeanette, but it's actually our school district. It's by the Elliott Company.
Okay.
I am very familiar with all that. That's why I'm asking.
Yes.
We have
That's why I'm
a
wondering.
little chunk on the edge of
It was
Trafford
just about
Borough.
the same amount of numbers.
Yes.
So would it be about 15 kids?
No, the section in Jeanette.
I think it's like one street.
It's one side of a street.
Well, what about the Trafford portion and the
But
Jeanette?
in Trafford, we have multifamily dwellings that are in Allegheny County but they're coming. I'm just,
What?
It's probably those kids.
Honestly, talking with some of the principals, I think it
Yeah.
potentially could be students who are coming to school here who shouldn't be.
It's something, if you would like, I can get you the list of those students. That's something.
appreciate it, yeah.
Okay.
The ones that
And-
are on the border of Jeanette, probably
Well,
border traffic.
They're saying they're living in the district, but they're really not, and they're driving their kid to school, and we don't know any different.
Yeah, it happens.
well,
But she's picking up addresses, she's not, so they would have to be using a bogus address for them to be registered here.
well,
Well, that happens.
the ones,
Well, I know, but that wouldn't be.
That wouldn't be
right
this.
now.
Unless, because it should, right, be flagged in your SIS system as they're being enrolled, that, because this address, we're using the home address that was put in y'all's system. So, maybe it's the program, or maybe it's that one street that's being excused, and maybe there are a few, that maybe they just didn't geocode properly, and so it did geocode them outside, and because there's just a few of them and it's not excessive, then we just didn't, think it was worth the.
I've worked for all the communities around in one fashion or another. And I can feel very comfortable if Dr. Harris got a list. I could sort through it and probably tell you, I know about 4 areas where this could be happening. The Jeanette ones, they vote.
Yeah.
They vote in the township. They live in Jeanette, and some of their kids attend their school.
Okay.
But again, I know where they are. If you get Dr. Harris.
Yeah, if you can give me the names of
Yeah,
the kids, I-
absolutely. I'll get you that list Thursday-ish. Okay. But yeah. And then it might be something that we just moving forward, maybe we know that there's something that needs to be updated in the SIS system, or maybe it's something that needs to be updated in our locator, so that moving forward, next time we'll say, oh, like say for example, if we decided to repeat this study in 2 years, we know that when we provide that matrices, because we provide that matrices at the very beginning of the project, again, to highlight these nuances that do happen, and so that we can catch those early on. And then at that point, we say, oh, wait, let's stop. Let's look at these kiddos and make sure that there's not something wonky happening with the student data. In this case, it's just a few. 22 students isn't enough to, right? Yeah, not a lot. Not going to impact anything. But so that's what we're looking at.
So whenever you do it, I've worked on geocoding projects. I'm somewhat familiar, but there's different things you use to do that. Do you ever, like, take for instance, the core of our school district is Penn Township. It's not the only part, because we have parts of Manor Borough, parts of Trafford Borough, all of Penn Borough, and I always say a little bit of Jeanette, and a little piece of what people think is Hempfield Township, but it's in the boundaries. So whenever you do your coding, do you use like say Penn Township's, theirs is a 55-digit for their tax map parcel. But we have 12 zip codes just in Penn Township.
Yes.
Jeanette, Trafford, blah, 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 and on and on. So I just wondered where you pull your data from. 'Cause I had to do this for years. I was in that.
So Pennsylvania has an amazing resource that allows us to download the data at the county level.
Yeah, no, well, and then a lot of that's from the tax map parcel.
So
I used to use that.
yeah, so as rather than having to spend time, right, bringing all these different resources together, we just go to the one resource and we download. But we use, if it's available to us, our favorite is 911 points, because I mean that's going to be the most accurate. Our next is parcels, and then roads if we have to, right?
So you use their geographical information system data then?
Yes, we download their GIS files.
That's
could
what
it
I'm
be-
used to working off.
Yes.
Well, could it be the part of the district that's in Allegheny County?
No,
How many kids do we have
Not
now?
that many. I know there's
Yeah.
like 4 townhouses that are in Allegheny County.
And
I
it would
know right
be,
where they're at.
and then we take that data and we do, it's kind of like a cookie cutter, right? We clip out, and then, so it should only, so those kiddos geocode to what's in your district, or there's a like a location of things, like how it's kind of like a hula hoop. Either you're standing in it or you're not standing in it, right? And so that's how these numbers are calculated.
Well, again, like I said, if Dr. Harris gets the information, I can spend probably about half an hour with him and sort through all of it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So-
Have you done some other school districts in western Pennsylvania?
I work with several school districts in Pennsylvania, western Pennsylvania.
Good, and how do we, what you're seeing here, how does that compare to what you're seeing in some of the other districts?
I will say that a lot of the districts are like you guys and did not have an impact of COVID. There's some districts that are in growth and but they also have a lot of development that's happening, more about 2,000 units. But then there is one other that I want to say is on a slight decline. But other than that, it's just what we're seeing, and this is happening nationwide because I work with a lot of Pennsylvania and then Utah, starting to work more with my Texas clients. And what we're seeing is one of the weird phenomenons that happened in COVID was people are choosing to leave those denser urban areas and they're moving into the outskirts of peripheries. And because why not, right? If you're going to have to be cooped up into your house, you want to be someplace where you can stretch out and breathe, right? Maybe bigger bang for your buck if you're commuting, if you're not having to commute anymore, you're working from your house, you want a bigger house, those kind of things. And so that's why neighborhoods like y'all's is seeing these higher mobilities, because these people are moving in.
How would you characterize us as a school district? Stable, growing?
I would characterize you guys as stable. So you're stable due to that mobility, the inward mobility. So you don't have a whole lot you do have development, it's just not a ton. And so now granted, that could change, 2 years from now, there may be suddenly 15 projects additional on the books that are, Miranda Homes maybe decided to pop in and build a bigger development or something, right? So I know that they're quite large in this vicinity.
There's not a huge amount of property available in Penn Township for development. It's
Yeah.
there, but it's not for sale. There are some parcels, but again, it's
I was actually on our way over here, I was like, I wonder what a build-out study would look like in this place, right? Just because of
they're available.
well, we do build-out studies to see what,
Whenever I worked for the community, we had
Yeah.
build-out studies.
yeah, and it'd be just a fascinating thing.
Can we start wrapping this up?
Oh, yes.
Nice agenda yet I want to get through.
Sorry. All right, so the next few slides are just some charts. What I want you to kind of pay attention to is this little hump right here, right? Because you're going to see that kindergarten bubble I was telling you about where it goes up and down and up and down. You're going to start to see that kind of come through. All right, so for the most part, your elementary levels are leveling out. But then look at your middle school. Now keep in mind, when you're looking at 3 grade ranges, any kind of impact that's happening there is going to be more densely felt, right? When you got a bubble that comes through there, it's going to be really impactful. But then you've got this down and up, and then we're going back down. And then we got this down and up. And so this is what you're seeing are those bubbles matriculating through. It's just a very interesting gradual phenomenon that's happening within your district. But, yeah. All right, so this map right here is a net change map. And what it shows you is areas that are green, and it's kind of difficult to see here, that are, if they're green or if they're yellow, then that's kind of where you're losing students. And when I say losing students, don't let that panic you. It could be anywhere from 1 student to 48 students, right? And then gray areas are areas of no change. And then where you have orange or red, that's where you have growth. And so these right here, I even looked at these, and there's no development happening here, but that's where you've got those neighborhood turnovers that are happening. But your development here, and then through here, there's some development, I believe. All right, right over here. And so those orange, these are those study areas that we've talked about. That's all these little cuts that you see. These are all the study areas that we cut out. And so that can be a change of anywhere from 1 to 40 students of growth. So
This is the same map, you can put the schools on there.
I can, yes, I can put the schools on that. I apologize, yes.
That'd be great, just to see the schools on there.
If you could just plop the schools onto all your maps,
Yes,
just every map product you have to put the schools on.
absolutely. I will be sure that that happens. So we try not to cloud or clutter the map, right? We want to make sure that you can see what we're trying to show you, so we just try not to, but absolutely I will put the schools on there.
7 stars.
Yeah, I will just, tiny little stars, so just enough. All right, and then so this is just a summary of what we've discussed. Again, just the 5-year and 10-year outlook. Again, tiny bit of growth, but for the most part, in my mind, y'all are just fairly stable, right? The growth every year is about a classroom size-ish. So when you break that across the entire district over 13 grade levels, you're looking at maybe like 2 or 3 students per grade level. So yeah, this is key district items. Looking at about a 2% incline over the next 5 years. Your kindergarten, your K-5 is pretty stable. It says a 0.45 decrease, but that's like less than 1% over the next 5 years. And then, of course, that can also change as birth rates change. As your larger class sizes matriculate through, grades 6 through 8 will be expected to increase approximately 18%. That's that huge hump that y'all were seeing because you got larger cohorts going through. And then district population is also anticipated to decrease by 5% because you've got some higher class sizes graduating through. And that concludes my presentation. Were there any questions that didn't get answered? I know we're ready to wrap this up. Well, if y'all come up with any questions over the next few days or so, feel free to send them to Dr. Harris, and he can get them over to me, and I will do my best to answer them. And then the final report will be to you guys really, really soon. I'm going to send it in a draft form first so that y'all can go through it. Make sure you don't have any questions. Make sure I don't need to address anything further. And then once you've approved the draft, then I will send it to final PDF, and we will send it, and y'all will get 10 copies in the mail. Okay?
Thanks.
All right. Y'all are so very welcome.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
Nicely done. You too, thank you.
We'll move on.
WIU report from Mr. Leonard.
Okay. I'm ready for my report. Okay.
I just want to say that Justine Phelps from WIU is also back here today, Mr. Leonard.
Okay, well then I'll try to keep this short, sweet, and accurate. I have a summary of the Westmoreland Intermediate Unit Board meeting held on March 28, 2022. Beginning of the meeting, there were 11 present, 5 absent, and 1 member was there pending approval to replace a member that had resigned. At that meeting, we reviewed and discussed, or at our executive session, I'm sorry, at approximately 15, we reviewed and discussed legal matters, contractual issues, personnel items, and school health and safety matters. Then we called a regular meeting to order at approximately 7 o'clock. 11 present, 5 absent, 1 pending approval also present. At that first phase of the meeting, a new WIU board member representative from the Norwin School District was voted on and approved to replace a board member who resigned recently. So then we had to adjourn that, and a new roll call was now done, which resulted in 12 present, 5 absent, which is a full membership and a quorum. And first, at this regular meeting, now all standard financial reports were approved as presented. And Mr. Michael Pekarsik, the board president, gave his report on the prior month's executive committee activities, as well as a number of upcoming events. There's also no committee reports were presented at that time. They were on the agenda, but none were ready. Now it's time for Dr. Jason Conway gave his executive director's report, which included the following items: a Rachel's Challenge event, which was held March 22nd. An update on the Education Career Fair, which will be held on April 20th. A marketing update with the presentation of several fast facts sheets, a comprehensive plan update, which is in process, and planning of the upcoming board retreat, which is to be held May 23rd. And then we also discussed the WIU board election. And then under the general meeting items, the other items of general business included, we accepted resignations of 8 E-Academy teachers and 1 PCA, approval of a number of various types of leave requests were approved. We had approved the employment of a speech and language pathologist, a classroom assistant, 2 PCAs, and a transitional coach. Also, personnel for the 2023 extended school year program were discussed and approved. And then we had the approval of the WIU 22-23 general operating budget, approval of many various standard agreements with outside agencies and providers, 15 in total. Reviewed and approved a number of staff training events, and the board approved the payment of pay request applications for the ongoing renovations to the WIU facilities. That was 3 in total approved. The board approved a list of policies which also to be included in WIU official policy manual. The board also approved 3 other specific agreements for in-house employees and services, which include a 4-year continued appointment and employment agreement for Dr. Jason A. Conway as the Executive Director of the Westbourne Intermediate Unit with salary and benefits as set forth in said agreement, a tentative agreement with the WIU professional staff, an agreement with Precision Human Resources Solutions Incorporated to provide staffing and services for substitute teachers, paraprofessionals, and custodians. A more complete and detailed and full agenda and minutes are available in the WIU website. The next scheduled meeting of the WIU board is scheduled to be held on April 25th at 7 o'clock in the WIU Fred Rogers room. This concludes my report. Any questions?
That was very thorough, and you've been very busy.
It was thick. Some of these meetings, this is like, I was to more than one meeting, but they all end up rolling into this. We've been having a number of meetings up there, and some of them are getting somewhat long, but we're accomplishing a good bit.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Leonard.
Now we have the career tech with Mr.
Now,
Petrucci.
I'm gonna postpone mine because we don't meet to the 13th. Please put mine on the agenda for the 17th.
Okay.
Okay? All right, next we have executive session, and we discuss personnel, litigations, real estate, and also be a board-only meeting. Following this meeting, the attorney is giving us different matters of advice. Okay, continue, Dr. Harris.
Sure. We have nothing under information, because I already covered it all. Next week, under athletics and extracurricular, we're gonna ask you to approve the FBLA trip. They go every year. We're gonna also ask you to approve the robotics trip, and they're going to Texas again, Dr. Cap?
Yes.
Okay. Under budget and finance, we're gonna ask you to approve contributions to area rec committees, approve the WIU budget, approve audited financial statements and single audit, approve purchases. And then under buildings, grounds, and safety, there are no items, nor is there any items under number 8. Under food service, we're gonna ask you to approve the food service agreement. Under personnel and curriculum, approve personnel agenda, approve the FID program, approve the independent contractor agreements. We're gonna ask you to approve the student assistance program, authorize the administration to request Act 80 days, approve we have an expulsion agreement, approve a settlement agreement. Under policy, public relations, legislative title 2, we're gonna ask you to tentatively approve board policies and admin regulations. There won't be any items under number 12, and we didn't have someone to sign up prior to last Friday afternoon to speak.
I see, anybody in the back there, which was just doing any talking, Nobody? Okay, thank you. There will be no recognition of visitors, and I'll now entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Leonard and second by Mrs. Ising. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
I could just finish the